At around 2:30 p.m. on the 1st of April 1982, a telegram was received at Government House in the Falklands capital, Stanley. It was from the Foreign Secretary Lord Carrington in London and was giving less than 24 hours warning that the British overseas territory was about to be invaded by hostile Argentine forces. The small group of lightly armed Royal Marines stationed there, known as Naval Party 8901, were invited to make their dispositions accordingly. It must have been confusing, but above all, the weight of responsibility. They had the islanders' lives at stake, and they had the expectations of a nation. Great Britain expected them to make their dispositions accordingly. What a ridiculous term.
The extraordinary thing is it's kind of left up to the Marines what they do. Do they fight it out? Do they lay on a buffet for the invaders? I mean, what's the plan? So there's no real sense of them being given strict orders from London right now about how to react.
They have to make their own decision. They knew why they were there. They were there to defend the Falkland Islands, and where they placed themselves was their decision.
We were there to do a job. We weren't there to roll over. Although we knew we had stood no chance at all against a proper invasion force.
The telegram had said that the invasion would happen early next morning, giving the Marines virtually no warning, even though there seems to have been good intelligence months before that an invasion was possible. I've got here a whole series of copies of declassified documents. These were released only a few years ago, but what they really highlight is just how ill-informed 8901 garrison were. This is fascinating. This is the Joint Intelligence Committee report. What you must remember is that this was written 9 months or so before the invasion. And one of the possible scenarios is here: full-scale military invasion of the islands. 8901 had no idea about this report, had no idea that this was being discussed 8,000 miles away in Whitehall. Warnings went unheeded, and no action was ever taken against any Argentine provocation, for one very good reason.
The British government had been trying to give away the islands through negotiation because they thought that, they said, their future is clearly in a closer relationship with Argentina. So the government doesn't want to do anything to infuriate the Argentines. So they say, well, obviously we're not going to do something mad like send a whole fleet down there.
It would have told the Argentinians that we were not prepared in the end to negotiate with them, which we tried to do unsuccessfully. There wasn't any reason why we should dispatch troops before we thought the threat was real.
So they're sort of sitting there saying, well, what should we do? Well, let's just assume they're not going to invade, because that would be a mad thing to do. It would be against international law. And let's just hope that sober heads prevail. And of course, sober heads don't prevail.
Politics were now irrelevant to the men on the ground. They had a job to do: defend the town of Stanley and the seat of British rule. While Major Norman organised his meagre resources, it fell to the governor, Rex Hunt, to keep the islanders informed via a series of radio broadcasts.
I expect to have to declare a state of emergency, perhaps before dawn tomorrow. I would urge you all to remain calm and to keep off the streets. I shall let you know as soon as I have anything further to report.
He's worried that people will genuinely be shot. So if you are now a resident of Stanley, pretty terrifying, and you just have to sit it out. The only communication they had was the radio station. To listen to it today, 40 years on, is pretty extraordinary. I get goosebumps.